This is In Center Ring. I'm your host, Jonathan Lee Iverson. His is one of the most recognized voices in all of American entertainment. He is renowned for his brand of inspiration and charm. The actor turned beloved Ringmaster is now impresario of one of the circus industry's biggest hits. We give you Kevin Venardos. Thinking, what could we name this episode? And I just kept thinking, you are the quintessential American dreamer in many respects. You know, I mean, the challenges you've had building such a wonderful show, the challenges just to transition there, start out as someone like many of us who ever ventured into circus, who aren't born into it. You know, you had a whole different plan. What was that? Musical theater, correct?
I grew up near Broadway, so I fell in love with that world, and I set my sights on it. But, you know, what you dream about or where your dreams begin and then where you end up, I suppose, being able to create some value for someone else, they might not be in the same place that you imagine when you set out. But the circus was definitely something I was not shooting for. I was wanting to be, I mean, hell, I was trying to get anyone to pay me money to sing and dance.
Guilty.
And that meant, I mean, I did children's theater, which I love. I was the man in the yellow hat in a musical adaptation of Curious George. But I would do anything that needed to get done, and it was definitely hand to mouth. And so when the Ringling Brothers gig happened, I'm sure they knew that I was a penniless singer and would have been happy to take, I was thrilled to take it. I don't know what I know what I got my first year, my paycheck, etc. And all I could say is it was a king's ransom. Every one of us that have had the honor of having that kind of job at the Ringling Show or any other show, it's just a very unique thing. And I don't think that job really, however, prepared me for being an entrepreneur so much. But what it did was it made me fall in love so much with what I was doing, that willful part of me, that when someone says I can't do something, there's like a fire that starts to well up inside.
You know, I know my challenges in transitioning from trying to get into opera going into that, but what was that like? I mean, really, in your mind, did you think, maybe I'll do this for a year or so and then forget about it? Or, you know, what was that transition like?
Well, I mean, for me, transitioning from unemployed to employed was definitely one that I was able to manage, I think, quite well. I don't think it seems highfalutin even to think that it was anything other than a magic carpet ride to suddenly be in the middle of that. I'm the luckiest guy in the whole world, and that's all it is. There's a million other guys that could easily have done that job better than me, without question. But talent is the most commonplace thing in the universe. And as I'm sure you discovered too, that it's not just about that job, then it's about sustaining that and continue to have that energy. No, again, for me to continue to work there, it was, maybe there was a couple of moments in those first, because I was there for 5 years. There's 3 different contracts. I signed up for one a couple months before I started, and then within a few months of starting my first year contract, I had signed for the second and third years. So I was signed up for a long time, and it was just an incredible blessing. And I think that in a way it was not good for me, because I was just a lazy, you know what. I just collected my paycheck. I went out there and sang. I drove my little car. I bought a little used Jeep Grand Cherokee, and eventually I started, driving from place to place instead of taking a train. I filled my cupboard with Whole Foods, victuals, and it's just a joy. It was so easy looking back now, because real life does not live usually within the womb of someone else's generosity, or just like the way that both of us live for those long periods of time. Most performers do not get to experience multiple years at a time of a commitment like that.
Very
There's
true.
trade-off in saying you're working your butt off. Yeah, okay. I said working my butt off. It again is it's so much. It's physically taxing.
Absolutely.
But it's not close in my view to the mental and emotional tax of constantly dealing with those dogs barking at whether or not you're going to be able to eat the next week, covering rent, and all of those things that come with being a gigger, an artist, where you're going from little project to little project. And I think that for sure in the years since, my experiences have galvanized my view that every one of us, going to call ourselves an artist, must be our own producer. We must be the ones who not only get good at that thing that we love, our art, whether it's being a singer or whatever, but we need to learn how to package that product in a way that is easy for a buyer. We need to know who the buyers are to go and click on a purchase and make that transaction happen. I don't see my art as transactional. I see what we do at the circus now as something of building long-term relationships with people. I want to come back with the show for years and years to come. It becomes a tradition. But to get to that point, we had to get in there and try and fail and be in a risky place and not be safe.
What in you decided, listen, I have to have the reins over my own destiny?
I think that it was a gradual thing because I really just wanted to keep working. I wanted to keep working. I had landed those jobs at Big Apple and then Vargas later. And I just, I kept wanting to keep doing it. And there just aren't so many circuses around. I mean, really, I could see that there's a time frame that you stay there, and then eventually I kept seeing that my desire to want to do new things or have a hand somehow in the creative aspect of what I was doing and not just reading script. And so I know as long as I'm playing in someone else's ball field, I'm going to have to play by their rules. And it's just the truth. And I suppose there's plenty of folks, and it's an amazing life to be a performer where there's incredible works out there that have been written already. I guess I just wanted to write my own stuff. I don't think it's just that part that motivated or caused whatever series of events happened led to me ultimately having to pay bills of this size. It really was a gradual thing, and that voice inside that says you want to take on that responsibility, it means that you have to take charge of the platform upon which you are doing it. And that means needing to find how can I make so that what I love to do is actually valuable to somebody else. For me, the continuing challenge and saga is finding new places and communities where my product can be useful. So I'll give you the two examples. I found in a little place called Buda, Texas, with the help of a great friend named Patrick, who's kind of my general manager now. I have several people helping me do these various things. In the beginning, I was doing them myself and not particularly well. So there's a little city called Buda outside of Austin, Texas, and there's a group who owns a bar and grill. And it happens to sit on a patch of land where there's a big grass field next to it. So I made a deal with them, and I said, hey, you let me set up my circus here, and don't charge me money. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend the money that I usually spend on advertising, which is not an insignificant amount of money. And I'm going to tell people all about Buck's. It's the name, Buck's Backyard is the name of the place. And you just watch. If you support us for this, and you plug us to your normal audiences in the weeks and months leading up to our arrival there, we're going to spend what we spend anyway, and we're going to bring our show there. And together, working together, we will, A, reduce the circus's cost of doing business, and B, we will increase our marketing signal. And I think that people who come to see the circus are also going to go over to your place, and they're going to double fist beers, and then they're going to walk out of there with a chicken sandwich and a bunch of other things. You just watch. And that is exactly what we did. Another example is tourism and development councils. There's a wonderful little city in northern Florida called St. Augustine. It, like any other place, must continue to reinvent itself and find new audiences. Every year, it's a constantly evolving thing. And so that city, like many others across the country, have a highly developed development or business council and a tourism development council. This is funds that there's a hotel bed tax. Every year, the hotels collect tax that goes into the coffers of these programs to help invest in things, people, and stuff like the circus that can help draw more crowds.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. So what I did was in our first year was we connected with them and we applied for a grant, and we got it. And they hooked us up with an amazing venue there at St. Augustine Amphitheater, and we had some extra cash to spend on marketing. And we spent the money in a very particular way so that we could specifically target people that more than 50 miles away from St. Augustine. And we did end up drawing 53% of our visitors to the show, which we were able to actually prove because of the zip codes from all of the people who purchased tickets online. We were able to prove that 53% of our sales came from 50 miles or more outside the city, which to the Tourism Development Council, that's to the tune of huge amounts of financial impact in their economy.
Wow.
Because statistically, people who come in and buy those tickets and travel for more than 50 miles away are going to stay at a hotel, and they're going to stay more than 2 days, and they're going to spend money at the restaurants and the other attractions. And so in this way, we work together. It's not about your worth or what you think you mean to the world. It's how much you can bring to someone else's needs, and finding a way to weave your magic, your silver strand of whatever that art is, which I personally view, I don't take offense to anyone, but I see our art as completely worthless unless we're able to change someone else's breath, bring joy, inspiration, and also the joy and inspiration start, the warm fuzzy feelings are only half of it. We need to find out how we can bring a measurable, perhaps even financial value.
You know, through the circuses that you did, that you were featured on, Circus Vargas, a Big Apple, or Ringling Brothers, was there anything from a logistics standpoint that you, now as the proprietor of Venardos Circus, that you've gleaned from those experiences?
I really believe that our willingness to change and to really let go of that sense of ego and instead really focus in on how in this new environment can we be useful to others? How can we bring value to others? How can we make choices that let go of what's not working and embrace what can? Because joy on those kids' faces is more important than tradition.
You know, we're in this brave new world now, and live events will not necessarily be the same. We'll be back, but I think it's just wise to say many people, especially like yourself being a show owner, are really looking to more avenues, particularly on the World Wide Web, to express their brand. And could you like tell our audience really about that? You know, what's inspiring that, if you wish to continue that once we're permitted to go back outside and play. Will you continue?
Yes, I'd always wanted to be. I've always been making videos. I actually started. My father was a big producer of videos.
Right.
He's a TV man. And those who know him know that he lived with me for a long stretch of time at the Ringing Circus. And he, back before it was Instagram cool to be making videos, he actually made them with his high 8 video, and he would cut them up and burn them on CDs to the tune of hundreds at a time, hand them out to the cast and crew, and they loved him for it. And I remember seeing that. So videos is something that I've aspired to for a long time, but I've also been extremely busy with making the show. So this kind of respite, if you will, this reinvention moment, it presented an obvious opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to get back on the stick and once a week show up for my audience, for our Facebook fans and friends, and over on Instagram. There's other platforms. TikTok is explosive right now. It is explosive.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, but that's another platform. There's people watching. What do likes mean? what are likes. They really are kind of meaningless to me in a way. I don't mean that I don't like being liked, but when I look at, you want to, if you're a business here, you want to find ways to bring value to your audience, and value that hopefully ultimately could be translated into things that are more than just warm, fuzzy feelings. Perhaps you could present them with a product that they want to purchase. You know, you're an artist, you got to feed yourself, and I've got to pay all of the bills and all the equipment and stuff that's financed. Those bills continue to need getting paid whether we're working or not now. So that juggling is, that's not an inconsequential pressure on me right now. It's huge, in fact. So, but we were doing well enough that I can see that there's a period of time ahead. So you want to take action now, so that when we get down the road there, whatever the case is, that we'll be able to manage it. So this YouTube thing is something that I believe that any artist out there can continue to do and grow. And I think that ultimately, all of us, whatever your product is, you can begin to generate revenue from it, from ad sales, because of the number of hours that people have viewed on YouTube. This is just one platform and one stream of revenue that when you cross over a threshold of 1,000 subscribers, it opens up a door to monetization. And then when you get more than 4,000 hours of video watched across all of your, I guess, all viewership, then you get to open another echelon of revenue generation. So creating content that can live online and that you just add to your library with time. These other platforms like Facebook and Instagram and I guess ultimately TikTok, you can post things on Facebook and Instagram from TikTok, but they don't really cross over yet. Anyways, that can ultimately lead to a stream of revenue that can be working for you when you're not working the boards, so to speak. And that's also a way, not just from the monetization from advertising, but you can generate revenue by advertising products that
you really embrace change. And you said something earlier that I really do want to touch on, because it is hard for a lot of traditionalists. It's hard for people when we get comfortable, as we spoke of, as Ringmaster, that comfort ductress, man. You get the check. The work is hard, but you get in a rhythm and it becomes comfortable. And that can get dangerous.
There's joy, there's excellent amazement in that. Listen, I love the theater, and circus is a routine. It's a ritual. I think that as an artist, that ritual is a wonderful thing. Right. And not to be abandoned that part. It's just to incorporate some of these other things, even just a piece at a time, into that routine, so that you can keep getting paid whether or not that you're one employer. You know what I mean? It's like diversifying your portfolio.
No, absolutely. I agree. And I think I definitely remember 3 years ago when Ringling closed, being in that space of what do you do now? And so we're seeing a lot of people who are frustrated around the country and likely around the world. They feel stuck at home. They want to get out. They want to work. This kind of change is really a challenge. As we said earlier, you've gone through many different detours, reroutes, journeys to get to where you are. I mean, you kind of, in my opinion, look, you got some calluses, man. You got some rug burns. You've gone through. You had bankruptcy. You actually got with homelessness at one point, but for some reason, what is it in you that I think you have that you could share with others to remind them, we can come through this?
It's like a battle, that discomfort. And I hear my little Andy is outside the door right now being bumped up and down by Marianne, Mom.
The one and only Andy Lane. Yes, we know about her.
Yes. As if I needed any more reason to have constant goosebumps about life and about the incredibly blessed opportunity I have to be a human that's able to follow his dreams. I do not have someone holding a gun to my head saying I can't do things. Maybe there's a government out there making a bunch of rules, but we'll sort out this. It will get sorted.
Mm-hmm.
There was another pandemic before. There've been giant cataclysmic events on this earth, and it has moved forward. It's just about, are you going to participate in the future, or are you going to get stuck in the thinking of the past? I think that is, and to be useful, really, we're not here to serve our own needs, even though we must along the way. We are here, and we will only find a way to service our needs if we're somehow helping others. And I know that it's hard to have a dream and then to have some circumstance or a person come along and blow that to smithereens. But somewhere there in the dust is still the thing that you're meant to do. It is endlessly painful. It is endlessly, I mean, even I got into a rhythm with the circus now. We were, we're starting to get somewhere. We're starting to really take off. People look at me and what we were doing at the show, and many of them think, oh, he's got it going on. How did he do it? And maybe get jealous or angry. Well, now, I mean, it's even those big companies, Ringling or whatever, Soleil, the behemoth that they are, the hundreds of millions, billions in case dollars, in the case of both of those entities, they might file for bankruptcy. Every one of us is floating around like a feather on a breeze, like he said in Forrest Gump. And so, if you think that you're any different than any of those people that are out there making success happen, that's you thinking that. The truth is that you are a miracle. I am not a religious person, but I really do believe that through the evolution of all the things, I look up at the stars, I look at Carl Sagan's pale blue dot. That's another thing I stay in touch with, is how on a wisp of a dot floating in a beam of sunlight is all that all this mess is. And so to try and find some grace, some gratitude, and joy in that adventure, because it is a grand adventure, and it'll be over before you know it. It'll be gone. It might be gone tomorrow. So all the worries about what's going to happen down the road doesn't mean anything. All that matters is what we've got here right now, and how can we use all that magic in our DNA to change the breath of others today. And I know we got to make money doing it. And you can be smart, and I've just listed several dozen ways you can do that. But you do it by following your own authenticity, being your own self, and not worrying so much about what other people think about what you're doing. Maybe more than any other message I wish to impart by my life's work is that do what you feel, or what's the friggin' Dr. Seuss quote? Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. The only true success comes from being yourself. And you will, in the course of doing that, have to confront or endure, but you will be in the presence of people who don't see things your way. They're going to hate on you. They're going to disagree with you. They'll make it difficult for you. Cut out the cancer from your lives. Don't leave things that are festering to go on longer than they need to. And they don't need to go on very long. I think very much about embracing and appreciating people that are your teammates, people that are behind you, that do believe in you, that are honest with you and really tell you straight up how they see things and what they feel. But people who don't fall within that what I've just listed, you got to learn to let go of that stuff. And it's not because they're to be hated. It's just that everyone has a different star to follow. And in fact, you're keeping them from following their star by trying to hold on to them.
I love
just keep following your heart.
That's a whole sermon.
Well,
you may not be a religious guy, but you just did a whole sermon. That's beautiful.
You don't have to add any footnotes, my friend.
No, I'm not editing any of that. Listen, my last thing, I mean, I can't let this go without talking about the future. You mentioned her. It was like everybody was waiting on pins and needles. When's she coming? And she came when she, just like any diva would. Your beautiful baby girl, who, and I can truly say that. I mean, I think the thing that's bothering me most is I have not been able to physically hold her and see her and bless her like I'd love to, because I'm seeing pictures and she is a doll. For you as a father, I'm not going to intervene at all, but now you're a brand new father. Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
Having, looking into her future, now you're going to be passing on some things. Now you have something that you're going to be giving to someone. You're building something for her. How does that cause you to really situate your thinking, your vision for Venardos Circus and just for Venardos the man?
That's a big question and a great one. And I don't have all the answers yet. Even through the pregnancy and until she was right there in front of me, it seemed surreal, and it wasn't real. It was, I was excited to support Marianne and to be there with her for that whole, we've been wanting this for a long time. I've been wanting a family for a long time. And through all the ups and downs, when Marianne and I, we found each other only a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I guess a lot of things can happen in that amount of time, but in the relative scheme of things in my life, because I'd lost enough stuff in my life to know that when something like that comes along, it's to be grabbed onto with both hands, embraced with everything you got. And so now that Andy Lane has arrived, and she arrived literally when the pandemic was announced and we all went into quarantine. So it has pained me not to be able to share her physically with our friends, with our family, that you could behold her with your own eyes. And I can't wait for that day to come. I have an eternal optimism. I can't help but get up in the morning and look at that and think that this is just a whole nother level of reason to be grateful that I'm here, that there's a reason I've been blessed in this way. So I see the future as bright, and I'm looking forward to sharing a circus with her, for sure, in as near the future as is possible, because she has not yet witnessed one.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, remember, please visit Kevin Venardos at the Venardos Circus on YouTube. And remember to subscribe or visit him on any of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Who knows? Because we're on TikTok. Take care.